with you. So let's go into this first slide once again. It's a statistical programming language, and as you know, and mainly R is used for three main purposes. One is data processing, the other is a graphical and visualization tool, and the third one is it can also be used as an automation tool, but mainly for statistical programming it's used. So data processing, if you go into the details of ETL, which is extract, transform, and load, for the extract and transform, we use our, it could be that your input files are either text files or Excel files, or you have maybe databases to connect to, like remote databases, structured databases to connect to. So the input databases or the input files may be any format, and they can be used as, and R can be used as a processing tool. And there is a huge community developing R. They have their own packages, which they uploaded to something called CRAN. Let me just get my pen. Let me see. Okay, so I thought I could get my whiteboard out of here. But anyway, so you all can look at my mouse, right? Are you able to look at my mouse? Anybody? Can you look at my mouse? Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, good. So, okay. So we have a large community for developing R, as well as making their own packages and uploading it to something called CRAN. It is a comprehensive a database to collect all the packages for R, and we have, as I just told you, we have a lot of free add-on packages that we can add on to R, and it can be used as an automation tool too. But in this very first class, we are just going to touch upon the basics, just superficially look at what R is. I'll get you to use your R Studios and have some of your commands run on your systems. So let's go into what is the use to you guys to even learn a programming language like R. It's there are as such, for R as a programming language, it's very actively maintained. It's one of the most important feature for any programming language, because if you go like 10 years down the lane, you have to have a community supporting that particular programming language. A few years ago, I was very actively using Perl, PERL, but it's no longer that well supported. So depending on the community that supports the programming language, it also becomes an advantage or a limitation. So R is one of the very actively maintained programming language. It has a huge community who are actually developing the language as such, and there are many other people who are adding on packages to this particular language. They have many statistical packages and a lot of other machine learning packages. You could use it for image processing and in a lot of other fields. And it's open source. As you know, it's open source. You can just download it, and you can change it, you can package it, and you can also sell it commercially if you wish to, and if you have something a good product out of this programming language. There is a core team who develop the actual and maintain the actual language, the programming language. It's a group of 21 people who are spread out all over the US, but are originally was developed in Fred Hutchinson Center in Seattle, Washington. And there are, as I told you, there are a lot of other programmers who are contributing to, the improvements and the fixes and and adding on other packages. And there's and it's very stable and reliable. and it runs on any platform. As you know, you could use it on any operating system, run it on any platform. It is extensible and it has a very engaged community. So let's go into what areas and fields that are required, that are requiring our programming language and skills. So big data analytics, very important field, very hot field right now. Big data analytics and data science. Every big tech companies, they are using data science, and there is a team of data scientists working on big data analytics and data science, using data to drive their decisions. In pharmaceutical and biotechnology, we have a lot of other subgroups in pharmaceutical companies. So one is commercial analytics. It is related to the commercial part, the sales part, where they see how the drug is being used and they track the consumer behavior. And so R is being used there. And there is another department called biometrics, which helps and supports clinical trials. And they interact with the FDA. They also provide all the statistical analysis for the FDA. So that group mainly also uses R. And there is clinical and research data analytics in pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry, where you have the clinical data, you conduct experiments on it, and I think which most of this group that we have today is mostly focused on, and they have their experience in pharmaceutical biotech research. And apart from pharma biotech, it's been used heavily in financial industry because R is very capable and able to use machine learning techniques and data science related methods to extract the trends out of data. And so for finance industry, it's really important to track the trends and also be able to predict the trends, which is heavily being used in financial industry. And in the next is the sales and marketing. Sales and marketing, you can name an industry or any online website. They have a team that tracks market trends, that tracks sales trends and consumer behavior, and most people use R because it's free, and all the data scientists that we are having now are very well versed in R. Sorry. So I'll just stop here. Any questions you can type in your message box before moving on. Just any questions until now. It's not been a whole lot of material that we covered, but any questions? Yeah, just if I don't look at the chat window here, just unmute your speakers and ask, because that way it makes it more interactive. All right. So one of the very interesting slides that most of you will be interested in this one. What are the jobs that currently need our skills and our programming skills? So this is something that I just Googled some of our job portals, and I found these are just a cream of jobs that are dependent, but there are several other jobs, and some of them are a variation of these titles that I posted over here. So the very first one is data scientist. As you know, has been used by, it's a position present in every major tech company. Data scientists nowadays, it's very hot field. They are using a lot of machine learning techniques. Like any top tech company, you name it, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. So everybody needs a data scientist to be able to use machine learning techniques and build models to predict and track consumer behavior or the user behavior. And there are a lot of other fields too, as I just described: marketing, sales, commercial, finance, all the other fields that require our programming skills. The second one is a data visualization specialist. This is something like previously we would have maybe a reporting person who composes some of the data so previously we used to have like big databases, structured databases from which you have to get all the information, connect these databases and get information, gather information, report it as a summary sheet, and also generate visualizations for it. So right now, since R is free, many people, like I in my job, use R for visualization, and a lot of other people also do, because there are other commercially available software like Tableau, and SAS also generates graphs and plots. So there are also commercially available tools that can produce visualizations. Maybe Spotfire. I don't know how many of you heard of it, but there is TIBCO Spotfire. Um, and Origin. Origin is something that some of the biologists use in my team to generate, box plots or align and scatter plots, and just like this. So for it, within R, since it also has programming associated with it, it has a very unique way of changing your files and playing with it before you can actually generate a plot. You can change a lot of other things, as well as you can do some of the pre-processing of data. And so moving on to the next title, it's a statistical retail business analyst. And I know when I was pulling up this title, it was posted by a company called Zappos. I think it's a shoe company where it's an online website, and it's very profitable company. So they posted this job, statistical retail business analyst, and they are asking for our skills to do business intelligence process improvement, and also for strategic decision making and data modeling. And another important title is data engineer for consumer payments. Some of the insurance companies or banks, they want to track the trend of consumers, and if they will, and the amount of loans, or the credit card balances that needs to be for one particular person, just to based on a lot of different information for one consumer, they are able to predict trends of whether the consumer will pay on time, or how to limit the amount that needs to be on the credit card, or how much loan amount should be there. So, and this is a very generic term, researcher. It's linked to a lot of companies, mainly for pharma biotech, but like independent researcher there are also positions in Microsoft, because an independent contributor or researcher is what they call. So they work on a lot of different cloud-based computing, and how consumers or customers, what products they buy, because even on the cloud they have multiple products to purchase. So what sort of customer buys which products? So that is their independent researcher or contributor. And healthcare data manager, this is very generic term used for mostly the biometrics team, where they try to do statistical analysis and present reports, like a clinical scientific report to the FDA for ongoing clinical trials, maybe intermediate analysis report, or a final analysis report. So, any questions so far? All right. So what can you expect from this class? The first 15 minutes we just spent looking at the background, what fields are covered, and what fields require our programming skills. And from here on, it's not just a background and theoretical class. I want you to be hands-on on trying some of these command, so you can get the feel of it. It's really easy. It's not that difficult. Maybe programming is intimidating as it was for me. I came from a biological background and went into programming, so it's not at all difficult. So as you can get started today, you can start exploring on your own, or continue my series of classes to become an intermediate expert at R. So we are going to look at some of, so I'm hoping everybody has installed R, but if not, we'll wait for a few minutes to install R and R Studio. Sorry, guys. So here are some other resources. I'm going to share this part of slide with you, and there are some other resources too. Like our mailing list. This is from the actual our programming people. So it's called r-project.org, and if you can get on the mailing list here, they will update you of the latest developments and latest fixes that they came up with. And there are some other forums like Stack Overflow, which is one of the popular programming website for all sorts of programming questions, but it also has many threads related to R, and it's very helpful. Like if I have any questions related to some analysis or how can I use different functions, I always go to that website, or I just try to Google it. um, and there is another website called Cross Validated. It's also, I think, a part of the Stack Exchange, is also part of Stack Overflow. And yeah, this is one another thing that I subscribe to, this blog called r-bloggers.com. It's very important. It's very good resource for having, like they have many little articles about how to do certain things. It's very well described. And if you want to follow our stats on Twitter, that is also a good place to go to. So R can connect to a lot of different packages, and it can actually integrate many other languages. Like it can connect to any of these Stata, SAS, databases, ODBC, Oracle, C++, Fortran, Java, Python, anything. So even if you have code from different in a different code written in a different language, you could actually integrate it with R. It's very simple. So here we're going to I'm going to give some time. Let me know in the chat window if you had already have R and R Studio installed. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, good. So everybody has it installed. So why don't we just move on to the hands-on part of our programming? This is actually the fun part. Until now, it's just a basics and background of R. So if you, I think some of you already know this, but we are going to do some of the basics again. So let's just open R Studio, and I'm opening mine over here. So can you see my R Studio? Okay, good. So I'm just making sure because yeah, sometimes I have just one part of the screen. Okay, all right. So this is my R Studio, and just going to um, I'm just going to explain like what this window and what are the different parts of this window. So this left-hand top side, this is where you have your script written. So if for some of you, if it is the very first time you are installed, it will appear like this. So what you have to do here is go to File and go to File, New File, and open a new R script. So then this window opens up. Everybody following? Okay, so this is where you type in your R commands and save it as an R script. And this is called the text editor. Sometimes if you had if you had experience with some other programming languages, it's usually an integrated user interface where your scripts open up, you can run it on the same window, and it's an integrated application. So RStudio is something like that. So this left hand side of this whole window is the text editor where you can write your R scripts. The bottom left hand side is the console where you can interactively type some of these R commands. On the right hand side over here, we have the environment, which is whenever I start running the script, some of the variables get stored over here. And if you see, there are two tabs over here. One is the environment and the next is the history. So history is just, it will keep a record of all your commands that you're typing in over here in the console. It keeps a record of over here. And then if you like to save them, you could just save it over here, or you could just say bring it to console and it will bring it over here. So, and this last part on the right hand side, this is the place where you have a lot of things going on over here. So one thing is files, so that will just list all my home directory and my desktop. The next tab is your plots. If you have a command to draw a plot, then that plot will appear over here. And then you can actually export it and save it as a PDF or an image, and you could like copy it to clipboard. And this is the place where you have packages. So as I told you, like R has many inbuilt packages as well as community developed packages. So there are tons of packages that you can just search for here. So your RStudio installation comes with some inbuilt packages, and these are all that you will see. So if you scroll down, there are tons of packages. Like I may have more than you because I've installed some extra packages that I need. And the fourth tab is the help tab. You can actually type the functions over here, and you will find, suppose maybe mean or something like that, arithmetic mean. So there is a function called arithmetic mean. You'll have a description here, you'll have the usage, how to use that function, and you will have arguments and value. This is just our documentation of one particular function. So if you want to quickly recall any of the functions, you could type it in the search window, and then that usage will appear over here. And that's just a viewer. So let's just dive into our first program, or the first command. So this is something that I think you already started a new file, which is an R script. So let's just go into the next page. This is just for, I showed it on live. So let's go into this quick start examples. So every programming language starts with some little program called hello world. So let's just try to print hello world in your in our RStudio. So I'm going to start it over here, which is the console. So print is a function, and I'm within the print function, I'm giving my argument as hello world. So if you can see, the result of that function is it just printed hello world. You can stop and do it in your RStudio. Just going to allow a few seconds for you to do that. Everybody following, just type a yes in the chat. Okay, good. All right, so once we have gone through this very first command, which is our hello world command, let's look at what the next one is. So the second example we have here is just you couldn't open a file. Okay, so let me just So Mahesh, just let me just tell you, are you probably looking at this screen? Okay, if you are looking at this screen, on the top you have a panel. You have a just click on the file, go to new file, and go to R script and click that. So a new file will open here. Just let me know once you do it. Okay, you don't see a new file. Have you installed R? It's a new script, yes. So new file and a new script. Okay, so new file and R script, or you could just go here and type R script. It's just a graphical way of saying a new file. So did your untitled one open? Okay, good. So guys, this is this for everybody. So once you open a new script, you could just save it with using the save button over here, or from the file menu. So just save it wherever you're doing the R program as session one, and it's a .r automatically. So just save it. So oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So that's my new script. I just saved it as a session1.r. You could name it anything. And has everybody done this print hello world? Because that's like the very first step. So I want you to do that. Okay, good. Okay, good. Um, so So R is I think it's the only language where you can actually on the console you could do any arithmetic operations. Like what I'm doing right now is just an arithmetic operation where I do 1 plus 2 plus 3 4 plus 4, and it returns the result. So you could try that. You could like it's direct numbers, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, anything, you could directly do it on the console. So the third example I want you to look at is this one, where you use a function, or it's called a C off, or a C open the round brackets, and then you give certain numbers, or you can give different values within that C, and it's actually within R. It's a vector where you have like these 5 values within one as one vector. So I'll just in a bit I'll let you know what a vector is, and what a vector is, and what the other data structures we have in R. So why don't you do that on your console? Just a C, open the round brackets, and then you can give any numbers separated by commas. So so this is a vector, and C, I'll tell you what the C means in a bit. Let's look at our next example, which is 1, the semicolon 5. So whenever you want to print a series of numbers, such as 1 through 5, or 6 through 10, or anything, a series of numbers, you use the colon symbol. So here, if I want to do like, if I want to print numbers from 2 to 10, I use a colon in between the two numbers, and then it gives you a vector of numbers in a sequence followed by 1. So that's just to print numbers from 2 to 10. So everybody following so far, right? Just give me a yes in that. Okay, good. Mahesh, you're following too, right? Did you get on with the, okay. Okay, good. Yes, definitely. So I am recording this whole session, and I will send you the whole recording. I will send you the whole recording as well as the slides, so you can benefit the most from this very first session, even if you decide to discontinue from here. All right, so let's look at our next example, which is this sum of 1 to 5. So R has many inbuilt functions. So one of that function is the very first example you saw, which is the print function, right? So you have print, and within brackets you have the argument. So a print is the very first function that we looked at, and then we saw this function C, and within the brackets we have a number of values. And the third function we are looking at is the sum, SUM, sum. If you had done like Excel programming, or it's a very simple function which calculates the sum of whatever numbers you put in there. You can either do like, so in my R programming, I'm doing either sum of 1, 2, 3, or you could do a sequence that's what is shown in the example, 1 to 5. So it's going to make a sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's go into variables. So what we have done here so far is just interacting with R in the console window, and we are just playing with some of, just printing the variables, or adding some variables, or printing a vector, or printing a sequence of numbers. So what we want to do now, this is of course the very first step, but if you want to dive deeper into programming, you have to be able to save these values into a variable and play with those variables, right? So what we are looking at now is how to create variables, and how to perform arithmetic operations with those variables. So when in any programming language, you should be able to assign some values to a variable. So a variable is something that can hold a certain value, or hold an entire set of values. So and that variable can be used in place of those values. So here, the very first example, you see that X, this operator, this arrow operator pointing the other direction, this arrow operator is an assignment operator. It actually links whatever value you give on the right hand side to the variable on the left hand side. So what we are doing here is assigning the values 1 through 5. So if you remember from a previous slide, that this operator, which is the colon operator, means that it will give you a sequence of values 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, right? So those 5 values go in and are stored in the variable X. So once you assign this value to X, in the next line, if you want to see what's in the variable, then you just type X, and it will show you, it will print out what's in the in that particular variable. So if you want to just try that out in your console, type A. So this operator, the arrow is your I think it's lesser than or a greater than sign, and a hyphen. So greater than sign and a hyphen, and just assign it some sequence of values, maybe 1 to 5, as we saw in the example. So we have this values 1 to 5 in that particular variable, and we named it x. So if you just give x here, it's going to print out what is in x, which is 1 to 5, because we just assigned it here. Suppose you didn't assign that. I'm just removing x and I'm trying to type x. It's going to give us an error saying that particular object is not found. So everybody following till here, right? Okay, so okay, good. So in this particular example, you can stop and do it, or you could just follow through, because these slides I'm going to share it with you. You can take some time after this session to sit down and go through each of these commands so you get a handle on R. So in this example, what we are doing is assigning the value 10 to y. Then we could do x plus y, and then because this is one single value, and in x there are 5 different values, right? So it's going to do is add this 10 to each one of these values, So that's why you see when you do x plus y, it's 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, since 10 is added to every one of the values within x. So that's what you see, and this is just a display of x and y. So it is as simple as this, but let's go into, yes, so if you had done what x was, you will see in this part of the environment that the value x is still there, because I didn't do the y. Let me just do the y quickly. So I stored 10 within y. So this is the environment, and it's showing us all the variables and the values that they have. So just in this is actually helpful if you go into detail and do big programs, because in those big programs you will have to keep track of all the variables. So I'm going to actually give you some rules about how to name your variables, so you don't get confused with just single letter variables, because you could start from A and end with Z, and that is not a proper naming scheme. You want to have some meaningful names, but since this is just the start, we have X and Y. Okay, similarly, we can have, so right now until now we just looked at like the numbers and variables storing numbers, right? You could also store text values. And in this example, you're actually looking at 2 words that are stored in the letter HW, in the variable HW. So we saw this operator before, right? It's C off. So C actually means combine. So if you use more than one value to be stored into a variable, you actually need this combine function. So this is doing C of, you have 2 words here, hello and world. So put these 2 values, combine it, and store it in HW. That is what we are showing. So once we type HW, it's going to print out whatever is stored within that variable. So similarly, if you just want to display the word hello world, you have another function called paste off, and then you have hello and world. So if you don't want to store it, but you just want to print it, you could use paste. And similarly, you can just store one word. When I said, like previously I said, right, it's if you want to just store one word, you don't need the C. But C is the C of function is not, it's not harmful if you use it even for one word. But if you have more than one words or more than one values or numbers to be stored in one variable, you can just use the C function and just to combine it. If you just have one word, you can store it within a variable. So here is something interesting. So you have, if you want to, so you have a lot of different inbuilt functions within R, right? So you once you start getting a hang of it, you will remember automatically all these tiny functions. But there are a lot of other functions that we don't know. Once we start using, get to the level of starting to use packages, we'll always go back and refer to the usage of what functions are present within that package. So nobody can remember all of these. Like this little functions like paste and see, yes, we do remember. Even for avid programmers, they do remember these, but nobody can ever remember every function there is. So don't panic if you don't remember it when you next open RStudio. So one thing is, if you don't know, but if you still remember that here there is, there must be something like, read a line in R. There must be some function. Just type it in Google. So that's the way we still use. We still use Google for a lot of functions that we cannot remember. So there is absolutely no way that you will be able to remember all these functions. But so this is one way where we could use. This is one function. Read line is one function where you could actually take the input from the user. So if you want to try this in your console, so just assign it. And so I'm using the variable name. If you want to just assign it to read line. So R is actually, this console is interactive. You can find all the functions starting with read, but we want read line. So you could just press on that, and you could just type whatever you want in a form of a question. So it immediately gives us, it's asking us a question, right? So what's your name? So I'm going to give it some value, my name, right? So now that name is being stored in the variable name. So when I type the variable name, it's displaying my value. And of course, you could see it in this global environment here too, that name is the variable name and the value is a name. So you could do many of these. Like in this example, you have the word hello stored in H, and then you have a name stored in your name. And if you just do the paste command, paste H and your name, it's going to give hello and whatever name you enter over here that's stored in your name. So we have a lot of these tiny functions which you can experiment with. But let's, just in the interest of time, I'm going to skip some of these slides, which are not very important for the first class, but I think I've gotten the gist of what I wanted to achieve in this class. You have, so in this slide, they are just showing you how you can source an entire script, like all this. So why do you need a script? Like, so all that we have done until now is in this interactive environment console, right? But what happens, so all of this is stored in history. So if whatever commands you type on the command line will be stored in the history, but the results will not be stored. It's only the commands that are being stored. Okay, so what you could do here is just press to source. Just select that and press to source. So if you press to source, our source is the script. So our script, you see that automatically this hello world, that particular command is being drawn to this R script. So you could just press the save button over here or Control S and save this in this file. So this file is being stored at whatever directory you have chosen previously, and you could open it and it will still have a record of all your files. Or if you want to save everything, you could just press the save history command over here, and then it will save everything that you have typed into the console. So actually the way we operate in the real world is we have a lot of scripts. And I can show you one script, like So this is how our scripts look like. So we have tons of lines of code which we cannot really operate from just by typing it in the console, right? We have to store all these in a file. So that's why the script is important. And I can execute each of these by going into that particular line and hitting the run button over here. So it's on the top, the run button, you can hit it over here. So like if we go back to our script, if we point our cursor to that particular line and hit run, that will be executed over here on the bottom. You can just hit run and it will be executed. So sourcing a script, if you want to, so sourcing a script is how to run. So one particular file, if I want to run everything that's in this script, then I just source that particular file and it will run each and every line of the script. So most likely when you become like intermediate to advanced programmers in R, that's what you want to do. Just, you save these tiny bits of code in different scripts and you just source the files. So that particular script will run. Or if you want to automate a process, like say every night at 12 o'clock, I want this particular script to scan the internet and get me any websites which are posting a particular product name or any particular Twitter link that talks about a particular site. If you want to run any such automated scripts, you could wrap the script up in a cron job and it could automatically run every night or a set time in a day, something like that, without your interaction or without any manual help needed. So that's the automation part. Let's not jump ahead, but let's get back to our slides. So this is one such example. Every line of this code is something that you already have done in the previous slides. So you could, once after the session, you could just try it out in your file, have the R script saved, and type these lines, and then you could source it or you could run it line by line in your console window. So again, I have a lot of other slides in here just to have like details of each of these. There are like the functions which we have already talked about. There are different functions. There are many inbuilt functions, and there are external functions where you could install a package. But let me just go through the packages and how they'll be useful to you. So I'm going to skip a lot of these slides. So one other thing that I want to talk to you about is the variables, the name of the variable slide. So when we have in these variables, most of these variables, if you see, we have named it like X and Y. So this slide says that, X, Y, and Z, the single letter alphabets are not really useful names. And if you, most of the times, we still do this as programmers, we still do this. Data1 or temp1, we just name it for temporary variables, but those are not really useful names. You have to use elaborate names so that even if you write like 1,000 lines of code, and when you encounter that variable, you can still recognize that variable and follow through as to what that variable may contain. So if you write X, Y, Z, and so you cannot really, if you write 1,000 lines of code, you don't really remember what's in X and what's in Y. Instead, if you name it appropriately, with what it contains, maybe the values from 1 to 5, you could name it as sequence 1 to 5, maybe like that. So I'm just making up this name, but sequence 1 to 5, maybe that is a better name to reflect what's stored in that particular variable. So there are a lot of conventions to name variables, but this is some of the popular styles that people follow. One is called the camel style, which is you write the uppercase letter for the first letter of the word. Like, in the first name variable, you capitalize F and N so that, it's easier to read as a variable when you go through your code and when you encounter such variables. It's actually much better. And this dotted style is another style. It separates the words with a dot. So first dot name or last dot name is much better than X and Y. So you could just name it that way. And I'm not going into details of this, but I want to tell you one other the style which we use in R is if you have a script like this, and maybe you have like tons of lines after this. Maybe you have like X and Y, or you have some other variables. You do a bunch of code over here. But if you want to have another programmer read it, or even for that purpose, even if you yourself get to this code like a month, you want to see what's going on with this code, you have to have comments in your code. So comments in your code can start with this hash sign. So if you have hash sign, anything following the hash sign is just a comment. R is not going to process that as any command. So you could just say, printing. So whatever you're trying to do over here, printing hello world, saving variable with numbers, maybe like that. So like in my code, if you see over here, for some of them, I have these comments where you say I have half count set equals 1 to NA recalculate frequency, just as anchors within your code to see what's going on or to separate your code into logical blocks. We use these comments. So you could use a comment, you could use like one hash, several hashes, doesn't matter. So several hashes usually helps you to make that block very clear. So I use several hashes, maybe like make it more attractive just by putting several hashes over here and maybe one after the block. So just to divide your code into logical blocks. And there is no multi-line comment in R. So if you have several lines that are comments, then you have to put a hash sign at the start of every line. All right, so as I told you, there are lots of packages, and there is a very easy way to install these packages from within your RStudio. So there is this this command called install.packages, and you can put whatever package name inside this parenthesis. So for example, you have install.packages. There is a package called fortunes. So put that package within quotes inside this function install.packages, and you'll be able to install that package. So I want to just quickly show you here install.packages, and I'm installing the package called fortunes. So right now R is bringing the packages, downloading it from that particular wherever the package is stored, and it installed it for me on my system. So it's showing you the downloaded packages are in whatever local directory it is. But when you're doing it for the first time, R may ask you to pick a mirror site. So just pick the one that's closest to you. So if you're on the East Coast, maybe North Carolina or something like that. If you're on the West Coast, pick the California, Berkeley one. Whichever state is closest to you. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it actually, when it's downloading, the speed is much higher if you pick the one mirror that is closest to you. So that's about installing packages. And so once after the install, you'll have to load the package. So if we are, if you can join me on the next session, we'll go into some of the details of this, but nevertheless, I'll share this slides with you. So the last two slides I have is just another example where, I want you to concentrate on some of the inbuilt data sets within R. So data sets actually ships, R Studio actually ships with some of the data sets inbuilt. So this data set called MT cars is actually within your R Studio. It's actually stored within your R Studio. So if I put MT cars, it's going to give me. So it's actually within your R Studio. So str is a function to show the structure. And another function is head, HEAD. Head MT cars is a data set. So now it displays the first 6 lines, or 6 lines from that MT cars data set. So this is actually a data set containing car names, and it has the mileage, cylinders and horsepower and whatnot for each of these different models of cars. So this is just a data set, and str is the function which shows how this data structure is stored. And it's saying that all these are the variables, and each of these variables, each of these columns has this particular values. So that's what it shows. And I have this last slide, which I have for you to try. You could try each of these functions. It's actually very simple. It's what what you think it means. It's the same. It's max is just the maximum value in this particular for this particular data set for this particular variable. So you could try it on your own, and maybe if you can join me on the next session, we'll try this. Or you could try it on your own. So let's allow a few minutes for questions, and we can wrap up. I hope everybody enjoyed the session and at least got to try some of these commands. Okay, wonderful. So any questions, just type it into the chat window, and so if there are no questions, then I will share this slides right after our session here. And okay, so Mahesh, I will connect with you remotely right after the session, and I will try to help you with that problem. I think it's the problem with R. The problem that you're facing is maybe installation of R. So don't worry, if you I can connect with you remotely and see to try to resolve that problem. So any other questions, guys? If you don't have anything, we could meet up next week, and maybe we can follow up after this to see how many of you are interested in continuing the session. And it's going to be a 12-week, it's going to be a 12-week, not 12-week, sorry. It's going to be a 6-week session, and within 6 weeks, I'm hoping I should be able to cover most of the R programming. So okay, Venkat has a question of how to save. So if you want to save the script, Venkat, there is a sign on the top. It says save current document, or you could go to the file and then there is save as. So this script will be saved. Okay, So Mahesh, I will follow up with you. So mostly what I'm thinking is three times a week, or if people are busy, maybe we could do it only the weekend classes. So I should see like what preference you have, because you may have work and other stuff. So we could maybe do it on the weekend, or maybe pick one day evening where people could connect, and we could do that. So we'd have to see like what preference people have to as to the timings of the class. So I don't want you to be like, I mean, of course it's going to be, if it's the weekdays, of course it's going to be an evening session, but I don't want to have it very frequently too, because you have to be able to ingest all the commands and be able to practice the things. So I want to give you enough time to practice on your own as well as during the class. So you have to be committed to giving that amount of that much amount of time, and I don't want to have it too frequently because then it wouldn't give you the time to let it sink in. So let's see. Maybe we can connect up during the week and before our next session starts. And depending on what preference you have, maybe we can see what days work out and what timings. So is everybody okay with the weekend classes? Because I think like weekends have people are much more free, and you have much more time to concentrate on going through the session and working it out with me. So weekends is fine for everyone. Is both days like Saturday and Sunday workout? Okay. So yeah, we could connect with you individually just to see like for how many people it works out. But if you are able to commit to this on the weekends, it's going to be great, because every weekend you will have this practice session within the session, as well as within the session you'll try to do something, and then you can take it right after. You could practice those slides, and you could be experts at programming within no time, at least hour. Okay, so anybody else, any other questions? You could I will share with you this set of slides, and you have my email. Everybody has my email, so you could just type it there, or you could contact Vamshi. Whoever is in contact with Vamshi, just email it to him, and I will get those emails. So I will respond you respond back to those emails, or I'm going to just send these set of slides out right now, right after a session, and our recording. Hopefully my recording is going okay. Good. So hopefully, yes, my recording is ongoing. So all this will be, I'll send you the video of the recording too. So if you have any doubts, you could go back to the video always, and we'll connect up after this session. Okay, guys. So thank you and have a great weekend.